So, this week's episode is super special because we are collaborating with Hairdustry, Your Day Off podcast. And our guest is somebody who we have all of us have known, have learned from, have seen, have been entertained by, and that is the one and only Robert Cromeans. So make sure you listen and watch today's episode. Tell everybody about it. And this is our first collaboration, the first time with this. So it's very exciting. I'm very excited. You're definitely going to see me fangirling and hear my voice and all these things. So tell everybody and enjoy. Are you a beauty or barber pro looking for that push to do that thing you've always wanted to do, whether it's in or out of the salon, spa, or shop? Are you tired of not feeling good enough, smart enough, skilled enough? Are you tired of not getting a handle on your mental health, boundaries, and insecurities? I'm Christine Sherwood, the BeautyPro coach, an internationally certified coach, a salon and spa owner, and your personal Jiminy Cricket. I use my own experiences, good and bad, as a salon owner to help you be more self-aware, authentic, and forward-thinking in your approach to life, in and out of the salon. It's time to reach your version of success with the BeautyPro Coach podcast.
Welcome to your day off. My name is Corey, and actually today's a little bit of an interesting day because I have a new friend named Christine Sherwood. Christine is the host of the Beauty Pro podcast. We decided to do a collaboration today because we're excited to talk to our guests today. But before we get into that, Christine, man, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. Yes, I am the host of the BeautyPro podcast, and I am also an internationally certified life and business coach. I go by the BeautyPro coach. Very simple. Like to keep it happy. And I'm so excited to be here. Thank you.
I hope your certifications is enough for me too, because I'm not certified to do shit. So
oh, stop it. You're fabulous.
Kind of covered that.
You're licensed in fabulosity. There you go.
Oh, I like that. Is that official?
Yes, right now. Just now.
That's awesome. So today's exciting. So you and I chatted about actually we did, I think it was during Threads. Like, does anyone talk about Threads out loud, or is it just people that are on Threads? But we had a conversation on Threads and about bringing on our guest today, and I thought it would be a super interesting conversation. And then so I reached out to Mary Cromeans, and Mary was able to arrange our conversation today with Mr. Robert Cromeans. And if you haven't heard, Robert had just announced just a couple of weeks ago that he's retiring from the industry, and like what a huge void that is, not just for Paul Mitchell, but for the industry. I mean, Robert held the stage for so many years, and own that stage, his own stage in there. So, what are you interested about chatting with today?
Christine? Who are you talking to? Me?
Christine.
Me or Robert?
It's not about him yet. We'll get to him.
Oh, okay. I'm like ready to go. Yeah, I am very excited. I have some questions that from the first time. No, let's rewind. When I was like 7 and my mom is playing Robert Cromeans business CDs.
Yeah.
I was like, who's this? What is this voice as a little girl? And then meeting Robert at Premiere, I grabbed him and I said, hey, I know you. Can you take a picture? And you go, calm down. Yes. Okay, let's go. I was like, okay, thanks. And I like ran away. Like, anyway, so I'm very excited. I have some questions.
You're fangirling a little bit.
Yeah, I'm fangirling. I'm not going to deny it. This is awesome. Like it's my birthday month and I'm celebrating all month. So Robert, thank you for being a part of my birthday month.
Happy birthday to you. It's my wife's birthday this month.
Oh,
I'm
the 20th.
Robert?
She's the 30th. Keeping nice round numbers.
Yes.
That's really good.
Perfect.
Well, that voice that you hear, that is Mr. Robert Cromeans. Robert, man, thanks for making the time for us.
Listen, my pleasure. I'm always open for a chit chat. You made a comment on people used to listen to me a lot before they see me. I'm actually easier to listen to than look at.
Oh.
And a lot of people, I think the best compliment I ever had, they says, you're smarter than you look. And I think that's a great thing. But I use my image as a little bit of misdirection because I've always had a conversation about business. And the thing I loved about You know, I know today we're on podcast time, but in those days I made CDs and people would put them in the car and they would listen to it over and over and over again. It's kind of like how you train a dog to sit. You got to say
Mm.
it 100 times. And there'd be times I'd be doing seminars, people said, if you fell off the stage, I could repeat verbatim every single word you said. And I know when I started listening to motivational speakers, they had the same effect on me. I used to listen to a very old guy. His name was Zig Ziglar, and he just blew my mind. He was super funny, very religious, ironically, but he was just an incredible speaker. And I think that, you know, sometimes hearing that repetitive motion of ideas is really important. And I've had a lot of pressure lately. People say, now you're retired, you want to do them again. I think there's always a conversation of business. And, you know, I look back to my early tapes. The first one I made was called The Art of Making Money.
Mhm.
And when I look at that today, if I was to open it up and put it on the channel so people could hear it, there's nothing false in that today, 40 years later.
Mhm.
So it's charge more, do more. You know, I think a lot of people are confused by the industry. You see somebody on Instagram saying, "Oh, I get 350, for color." It all depends on timing. Everybody's a little different. We're not all created equal. According to Jesus, we are. We're not. We all perform at a different level. So it's built on volume or performance. If you want to build a clientele, have a small price because that's going to give you the experience and the volume you need. My wife is a performer. I don't talk about stage. I mean, she is a performer in the salon. She came home the other day, $1,800 day, average ticket about 350, about 60, $70 on retail or take home. You know, these to me are the things that stand out. And the one thing that I would say that I have changed in my mind, 30, 40 years ago, everything was on commission. Obviously, there was freelance, but everybody was on commission. And I would say, if you had a $3,000 week, I go, well done. There you go. Here's your commission portion. But the thing that nobody ever considered was time. And when California changed the laws a few years ago, they started bringing people into hourly. So I had to equivalent time. So hypothetically, if you had a $2,000 week, if you did it in 25 hours or you did it in 20, your premium would be higher on 20. So the pace of the industry is quite interesting, but I don't think enough hairdressers look at time. Some work 6, 7 days a week, coming in at 6 in the morning, working all day, having a nice outcome. But if you just try to kind of cross check, if you will, with how many hours did you put into it? How many hours did you put into that corrective color? How many hours did you put into the extensions? I think this will give you a little bit of example of whether you're on the right path or not, because I know for me in California, it's been a huge help. So we've broken the commission bubble. All of my employees are on hourly. Every 13 weeks, we coach them. We assess their numbers, and more than often, more than likely, they're getting a raise. So they're no longer looking about pushing the commission number. They're looking at, I want to get more hourly. If you were going to buy a car, a commission bracket on your paycheck will not be as powerful as an hourly rate because they can't, I told my mom in Scotland when I got the hairdressing job, what are you going to make? I said, I don't really know. I think I got 50% of what? She goes, I don't know, nothing. You don't know what you're doing. So if I told you were making $28 an hour, you'd know exactly what that means if you work 20 hours. So that's something that me has changed over the long term. It's not national, it's not all over the country, but
Mhm.
it's something that I thought was a problem in California when they gave it to me, but it turned out to be a silver cloud. It's turned out to be
Oh,
very
Robert, I'm a little confused. So in California, you can't. So there's not commission stylist any longer.
if you're going to pay commission, you have to pay double minimum wage plus a smaller commission. So it'd be probably in the 7, 8, 10% category.
Hmm.
And if you double minimum wage in California, that's already at $34 an hour. So if I got a young kid coming out, they are not getting $34 an hour. They're going to start at minimum wage and they're going to work their way up from there. So it's the option is commission can exist as long as you pay double in the hourly, but I would just say that's unlikely. So we just went for total hours. So if we take your revenue number, we divide it by how many hours you work, and that gives us a number. And you're still using a percentage to work it out. It's the same. It's 6 and half a dozen. If I was paying you commission, it'd be the exact same. It's not a differential, but it does make a big difference in how people look at things. So if they're coming into work and they don't have clients, they don't really want to be hanging out running the clock because it's going to affect how many hours they put in to hit their number. So it's kind of helped a lot of just people hanging out all the time.
Can you
There's
give me
nothing.
an example of it? I'm still a little confused by it. So like if I'm at like a 50%, like in a traditional model, if I'm at like 50% and like, let's say I do $1,000 worth of services for the week, how does that break down?
Well, again, you need the third part of the triangle, which how many hours did it take you? And you see the problem there? People
Yeah.
say, oh, I had a $1,500 week. If it took you 73 hours, and you'll be surprised, hairdressers have no concept of time.
Wow.
That's why we run behind.
Mm-hmm.
We always take longer than our last client because we can run our mouse a little bit. We have no idea. I mean, you get into highlights, needle and thread, all the types of things that take a lot of time, especially for a young hairdresser. It can take them 3 hours to put a highlight in.
Sure.
So as much as they think, oh, wow, I had a great day, that was a $300 ticket. If it took them the 6 hours to get it in,
It's $300
and
a day.
you bounce it back, I'm just saying it's a good cross check for every hairdresser, whether you're a freelance hairdresser, whether you're on commission, just cross check with your hours to make sure you're charging appropriately and you're in the right ballpark, because I don't think people see the value of time. It's a precious commodity. You can't replace it. And what I find is I have people that are very efficient on 2 or 3 day work weeks, being very successful because they really manage their time. They maximize their time in the salon and they have more time off. I have a big passion for working mothers, which I remember 30 years ago, I heard you were having a baby. I'm like, oh, that's over. The reality is a working mother has got focus. She's got that focus for 2 days. She wants to get in there. She's not into gossip, not trying to change the world. She wants to do her job and then spend 5 days a week with her family. And I would say the industry right now after the pandemic is probably part-time. I don't think
Mm-hmm.
anybody's putting in the 60, 70 hours that maybe some of us did to get there. When my wife first started working for me, she would work 70 or 80 hours a week for a minimal wage. I mean, it wasn't really legal. It's just that's not the way the young people are coming in. They want that side hustle. They want multiple jobs. So if I get 30 hours a week from a person, that's what I want to maximize. So I see more future in part-time employees coming in. So you may need twice the staff that you may have originally planned on, just because you need more people. Having somebody working, 7 days a week like we did. And I would just say that I think the young kids have the right idea. Life is too short. So why be behind the chair, listening to this stuff? And then, I used to make a t-shirt, and I'm sure you may have got one. It's called I Run with Scissors. Now at my age, I have a nice stroll. So you run to your heart stops. And I would just say that hairdressers are the best at a certain amount of clients. And then once you go beyond that, you start to hate people. You want to choke them with your blow dryer. So find the balance that makes you love people sincerely. And that's how many hours you should work a week, no more, no less. Because the minute you start not really listening to clients, not really loving it, not really enjoying it, I don't care if you got to go down to 2 days a week, 1 day a week. That's all I work, 1 day a week. I have the greatest day in my life, 1 day a week. When I used to do it 6 days, there's times when I'm like, oh my God, I can't take anymore. So find the balance. That's the life balance people talk about. And I think it's a kind of important thing. And it kind of goes into that equation of time. Your time's important. What would it mean for you to spend more time with your family, more time on your hobbies, maybe a side hustle, and then this pure energy of the salon. So when you're there, you're present. When you're there, you absolutely want to be there. You're looking forward to every single client in your column. I think these are all things that we got to aim for, not doing so much just because it's required. That's the freedom the young industry want. They don't want to be told what to do, and they don't want all, a 50, 40-hour work week is unimaginable. My wife works 4 days a week. She may get close to the 40 hours, but typically the most average in our company today is 30 hours.
Wow, I love all of that. That's what we do. And my salon, we are actually a hybrid. So we have a little bit of everything here in Florida. We have the hourly, we do the hourly rates, the commission, all of those things, and you really do see the change in the staff.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
see them happier, you are happier. It's oh, we even have like booth rentals as well. Like it's a little bit of everything and everybody's just living their best life.
Yeah. I
So,
believe hybrid. We have hybrid. We have 3 or 4 legacy employees that got the opportunity to go on it. We offered it to many, and surprising to me, most people didn't take it.
hmm,
And California, I don't know about Florida, 98% freelance, 98% as you renters, if you wish. Um, which means, you know, employee kind of types of salons for the future, especially in California, I don't think are going to happen. So I'm very interested in pursuing the hybrid part. I feel, you know, I'm very fortunate. I work with many companies. I've worked with Sola. I've worked with Salon Republic. These are great freelance organizations. I also work with Supercuts. I work with Sport Clips. And what you start to do is kind of understand that there's a certain balance. I don't think most people have a full-time clientele, so they shouldn't be paying full-time rent. So we rent by the day. Yeah, you can take a week of it if you want it. And there's a little bit of break if you take the 4 or 5 days. But basically what we're suggesting is take the salon for when you need it. If you need 2 days, buy 2 days. Don't buy a week. An average salon in some of these organizations is about $400 to $500 a week. If you're only bringing in 1,000, that makes it 50% of your revenue before you buy color, towels, coffee, or champagne. So not always being independent is better. I'm just saying sometimes you've got to look at it. So I kind of try to break it down a little bit so that people can have a freedom. In fact, I think I'm going to take this to the world just to say, come on into my salon and work a day, a month. Come to San Diego. It's 100 degrees right now. It's beautiful. It's gorgeous. I've got a beautiful salon. You get the bragging rights of it. And I think it could be an interesting way to pursue a diversified career, which is, I think, what I've had for 40 years with Paul Mitchell, doing salon stuff, show stuff, business stuff, everything you can imagine is what stopped me from boring myself to death. And I think these are kind of critical things that hairdressers need to look at. Looking forward to going out of town for a weekend, working with 5 or 6 clients, and you could rent by the day, you know, do whatever you want and travel the world a little bit and see the world. I seen a sticker this morning on a guy's car. I said, Guam. I've been to Guam. No way. I've traveled 6 billion miles in my career. So it's a kind of interesting thing when you sort of understand the lifestyle that is possible for a hairdresser. And there's certain little communities that never really get much exposure that you could have a wall in. And I would love to see us all traveling around the world, working in other folks' salons. I think that could be quite a beautiful vision.
Robert, so as a business owner, when you have all those stations in your building, is the goal, like if we look at the stations as the employee, is there so much money that each station has to generate? So whether you split that up between 3 hairdressers, or like what are your feelings about that?
Well, I was on a podcast last week with somebody in a situation, and I would say, yeah, maximize your chairs. I have a very large space right now. So I would say that if you came and rented from me from a day, not only going to give you a chair, you can use as many as you want. I have a beautiful color bar with no stations in it that's got 23 floating chairs. We've got 19 styling stations. So to me, it's whatever people want. And I think because of my facility, I can offer that. But I think that if I had 6 chairs, I would just say, what can I do to maximize those? If there was 3 people paying 2 days rent a week to use that chair, why not? I think every owner, if you're going to open a business, then your job is to maximize the revenue. And it's a beautiful thing. And I would just say the diversity of the business is very critical. And it all depends where you live, what your rent is, and what type of overhead you're supporting. Right. So my lease is up in this store in May of next year. I can't wait to move into a smaller facility. I'm going to have to think about it, the whole idea again, because I'm not going to have the luxury of the space that I currently have. We have 19 working stations. I would say the greatest concept that we have right now working in our store. Most people don't read books. So we had this little easel, little plastic thing, and it said, save the date. And it showed you what 4 weeks from today was, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, 10 weeks, nothing to it. My wife would run to Kinko's every single week. Sometimes she'd send me, and it was becoming a little bit of a pain in her bum. And, I was like, okay, well, I was at a friend's house, and I seen a picture of him in this beautiful frame, and then the picture switched to me and him, then to him and his wife. I go, so it's an LED frame. So in every station, we have this LED frame that has all the collateral of the products that we believe in, the services that we offer, the save the date and all the things. And clients sit there like it's HBO, watching it and constantly reacting to, what's that? What are you doing in the sink? What type of massage is that? What type of treatment is that? What type of color is that? Asking questions. What hairdresser doesn't want to be asked questions instead of being the person pushing it down their throat. People love it. So it's a beautiful organization. We refresh it once a month. It can be done remotely. I bought them from Amazon, $50 a piece, and it's probably the smartest thing I've ever done in the last 5 or 6 years to bring technology into our businesses.
That is
Some
absolutely
people have a big screen up front. That's not common knowledge. It's great, it's nice, but when people are sitting there, it's just that one-on-one. I love it, and it's just incredible what you can convey through that. Right now, we're doing a lot of scalp treatments. When you see a scalp treatment, you're like, "What's that? I want to try that." If they don't see it, it's like a crazy uncle in the attic. If they don't see it, they don't know what it is. But once they see it, they ask questions. And if you worked for me, somebody goes, "Oh, what's that?" And they go, "That's just one of Robert's dumbass ideas."
No.
No, they're going to have to go, exactly. This is this, because you're not going to
Right.
be caught like that. You're going to seem to be an expert. So if we got a new
Right.
product launching, we have something right now that's something to do with water and charcoal, but it's in that movie. So people are asking questions. The
That's cool.
team conditioned on it because they already want to be aware, because you
Uh,
don't want a client asking the question that they don't know the answer to.
Right. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question that it's going to be a hard pivot. And it's a hard pivot.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So growing up, and I would go to the shows, and you actually just did it maybe like 5 minutes into today's call. And I always wanted to know, I said, okay, so I like to keep things real and raw, Robert. Okay. So at the hair shows, you would be on stage, you'd be talking, educating us all. And then you would say, and Jesus loves you and he loves me. And so, as a Scotsman, I know you're kind of defaulted to be Presbyterian, most likely. So, do you have a relationship with Jesus, or is that just for jokes?
Yeah, I get caught on this quite a bit. It's really just, I usually say, if you're going to cut hair, you should have a relationship with Jesus. It's not, I don't really have that type of foundation. It's super funny. And I just know that people are religious. So
Okay.
they always got to laugh. But no, I'm not worshiping every single week. I'm not against anything. But I would say I'm Protestant as my Scottish kind of upbringing,
Mhm.
but just funny to me.
Okay, no, that's fine. I would always be like, "What is going on in there? What is happening in Robert's little heart? What's happening?"
The
Okay, thank
Jesus
you.
people would come up to me later and they would always say this to me. It shows, "We pray for you." And I always felt like, "Oh my God, am I that bad?" They said, "No, it's because we love you. We pray for you." And I thought, "Well, that's great." And, I just say that as lately going through, that became less and less said because it wasn't as, it's always funny, but it's not always funny to everybody. But nobody knows how I really believe. But
Mhm.
it's interesting you would pick up on it because,
Well, yeah, that has stuck out in my mind for years. And I'm like, if I ever get to talk to him, I'm going to just ask him. And so here we are. So, thank you. Another question
uh,
is, what do you feel has been maybe your biggest struggle or your biggest failure?
well, I would say what has kept me humble is being a salon owner.
Mhm.
Being a rock star on stage, I find quite easy. Having a communication about business when you know it. And it's not just what I know through my own experience, it's who I've worked for. And I
Mhm.
don't mean as an employee, I coach these companies. So the first thing
Right.
they got to show me some data that gives me an idea of how they perform so that I have a clue. So I'm very kind of well versed on a lot of different business models. And that really helps me as a guy that wants to speak about it. But I would just say that the salon has always been a humble factor because as the minute you step on a plane and you're out of town, you don't know what's going on in your business. It's a kind of interesting step. And I would just say that the salon is not an easy job. When people say, "Oh, I'm going to
Mhm.
open a salon," I hear it at shows all the time. "I'm going to open a salon." I said, "Where are you going to get your team from?" She goes, "They're coming with me." I'm like, danger,
Mm.
danger. Uh,
Yeah.
More than ever before, opening a salon today is a tough dream simply because the human resource capital of people is the toughest to get than it's ever been. And I'm
Mhm.
saying recruitment and retaining uh, team members, the turnover rate in salons overall is quite large.
Yeah.
So if I had had my business, and I've had it for about 30 years or so, if I had retained every single stylist that worked for me, I'd be the richest guy in the world.
I always think about that too.
because, and you know what I love? The first thing they'll say to me, it's not personal. We're just kind of going, I'm
Yeah.
like, it's personal to me.
Yeah.
You used to live in your car. I got you out of that situation. It's always
Mm.
personal. I don't care how many times you hear it. I don't take it as personal. I don't have any vindictiveness towards them. I don't want to sue them.
Mm.
You know, you don't want to work here. That's fine. But I'm just saying it's amazing. Some of the people you help the most
Mhm.
be quick. And, you know, for me, I've been loyal to Paul Mitchell for nearly 40 years. So I've always been a loyalist. I do have employees that work for me for 30 years. How long have you worked there, Mary?
For Paul Mitchell or for you?
For me,
For you, 28 years.
28 years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there is loyalty, but I'm just saying, I think that I used to I'm going to his birthday party this month in Vegas. And this is one of my favorite owners in the world. I would go to conventions he did, and he'd be giving away cars and not like, you know, BMWs and stuff. Sometimes at one of his giveaway parties, 5 or 6 cars, he had profit share that people were making sometimes $300,000 a year, and he still had turnover.
Wow.
This is a salon owner?
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
But Robert, is it I don't know how to put this question, but is it fair to think that someone that you get right out of hair school that they're going to stay with you forever? I mean, there's no other
Mhm.
example really. I mean, kind of that model is dead even in the corporate world. There is no like blue chip jobs anymore. So is it kind of an unfair expectation as a salon owner that you'll keep somebody forever?
I wouldn't say that my expectation is to keep them forever. I think that, you know, the the stick power. Every time you move a salon, you're going to lose half your clients.
Mm.
So you're
Mhm.
perpetually building. So I would, if I was going to leave a salon, I would look at my indicators to tell me if I was doing the right thing. Are you 70 or 80% in demand? Because that way you have more power to move. But if I'm 40% in demand and I move and I lose half of that, I've now got 20% clientele and I have a rent of $1,600 a month. That's dangerous.
Mhm.
It's just being knowledgeable. I'm not saying it's right. There are certain individuals, like my wife said to me, I love you, but I'm going to go rent somewhere. I know she has the numbers to support it. She's got the loyalty to support it. It's not just different strokes for different folks.
Mhm.
Some people need sometimes the alignment of having somebody behind them to help them push ahead. I think that's why I've
Mhm.
done so well in the industry. I had a lot of people believed in me. So I think that's the key. And I would just say that right now, because the minimum wage is so high, we're not hiring so many young kids out of school. We're looking at the industry a lot different. I used to have sometimes 10, 12 assistants at one time building our future team. And we don't really do that as much. We had 3 or 4. I obviously invested some during COVID because we lost so many, but it didn't all turn into gold. It sort of was, yeah, they were there. So even though I hired 8, I kept maybe 2 at the end of it, and they're killing it because I think most people need somebody just guiding them somewhere.
Mhm.
You take a train off the tracks, it doesn't go anywhere. So the people that we've got, I've got one right now. She'll be upset if I don't mention her. Her name's Alex.
Aw. Hey, Alex.
I hired her from Paul Mitchell the school. She was a Cosmo barber. And I started off in one of my little salons, and she is just breaking every record, going further and further. The more Mary coaches, the more we coach, she's got it. And I know that I used to say to her, I said, I know right now you're 19, 20. But do you want to make 20-year-old money or 30-year-old money? And
Mm.
she's now sort of got it, and she's getting rewards, she's getting promotions, she's got the hang of it. I think that's what people need. A lot of people need guidance, and it doesn't come from the internet, and it doesn't come from just taking coaching you here on the internet and going, oh, I'm going to use that. Everybody's got a different life,
Mm.
you know, so you've got to kind of pick your mentors and coaches. I love you use the word coach. There was a thing called Clubhouse that was big during COVID. I loved it.
Yes.
For
that.
I was the mayor of Clubhouse, but on one of the guys' profiles, it wasn't even a hairdresser group, but he didn't know how to spell coach, so he wrote couch.
Oh, no.
So when I was doing seminars around there, I said, I want to be your couch. So, you know, if you're going to
Ouch.
emulate somebody, you want to know exactly that you've got apples to apples type business.
Yeah.
It's like when you hear the word percentage of retail. That's got to be apples to apples. Only if you're charging the same price as another person does that percentage really come into play. So to me, find a business that's apples to apples, find somebody in a career that's exactly what you're trying to do, And those people make great coaches for you. And, you know, there's so many ideas out there. We've never been short of ideas as an industry, but it's about the giddy up and getting the ambition to do it. We're all motivated. I've been motivated for years to go to the gym, but never taken my fat ass there once. So it's a case of what's going to drive you. And sometimes it's people who drive you to make you do impossible things. And that's what I like to do in people's lives. Make them do things they didn't know they could do. And then when they've done it, they go, wow, it's a lot easier than I thought. Yes, it is. But you've got to apply yourself and you've got to be consistent with it, you know? So that makes a big difference.
So, what's an insult, whether personal or professional, that you have gotten that you are currently so proud of? You look back and you're like, wow, I'm happy about that.
I get a lot of homeless stuff.
What? Homeless?
Yeah.
Okay, I don't
Yeah,
understand.
does that make sense?
Elaborate.
Well, when my wife and I were dating, I was going to take a car to go rendezvous with her somewhere. And I was on a corner and this homeless guy was just going crazy. And I just ignored him. And then I listened in and he's like, this is my corner. So homeless people come up to me all the time. Sometimes I'll see a client trying to come into my salon. I'll go out and say, hey, and she'll like hold herself. She thinks I'm a homeless guy trying to make it. So I don't really hate it. It's kind of like, you know, I'm bringing homeless back. I don't really care. When I take my clothes to my dry cleaners, there's a big hole in that. I go, yeah, I bought it that way. Kind of look that I go for, and you know, the whiskers and all the stuff. You know, it's just a kind of look to. So, you know, I don't
Did you
think.
ever go pick your stuff up at the dry cleaners and the hole was mended?
No. I wouldn't use that dry cleaners. No, I have very particular clothes. That would be.
We've seen.
I think it's great. I'm always like, oh, it's Robert the pirate. He's talking right now. I gotta go see this.
I get the
So
pirate thing quite a lot, and I did. Thank you, Johnny Depp, for that. I did love him. Pirates of the Caribbean. I did love the movies, but I did sort of have that sort of pirate hat image. And again, I think that no matter what, you're trying to lure people in. And when I go to a show, like you mentioned, you met me in Orlando, people see me walking by, go, who the heck is that guy? I want to go see what he's about. So whether I'm an idiot or you know, a guy that really knows how to run his mouth, which is the case, people come to my shows and are actually very surprised by me. I once did a big convention and the guy said, the whole time I was in the audience, I couldn't look at you. He said, but then I listened to everything you said, and I thought you were just the most profound individual I've ever met. And I want to apologize for judging you. Everybody wants to judge a book by the cover.
yeah.
I think that's the thing I try to sort of do. I use my image for a certain thing, and it lures you in, and then you're actually quite surprised when you actually hear some truth coming out of it, and it makes a big difference. And I would just say that it's a rite of passage. You don't just come up looking like a pirate and then, oh, people are going to come see me. If they do, they'll be disappointed that you may not have anything to say. So it's been an evolution of the Bob. It didn't just come out this way. I didn't leave beauty school this way. Over time, I evolved, got stronger, got a little weirder, got a budget.
A weird budget.
So at the end of the day, I try to, honestly, I have a beautiful heart. I'm a beautiful man. I really love people. I love hairdressers. You talked about having a photograph, Christine. I've had more photographs taken long before there was Instagram, when people had the little wind up camera.
Yes.
I would be at shows and there'd be a line, as you would think it was for the restroom, and it was for a picture. So I always take pictures. I've always done it. It's always been a way I close the show. I'm always one of those artists that when I am on a big show, I leave through the front of the house. I'm not a backstage guy and off in my tour bus. I just think if you love hairdressers, I say this all the time, if you love hairdressers, tell your face. It's sincerity. And I think why I had such a great reaction with people is they could feel it, whether they agreed with everything I said, liked the hair I did. One of my best buddies said, Bobby, you don't even need to do hair. They just want to listen to you. It's a combination of things. And I think that I see lots of great talent on the horizon. There's people up there that can do a lot of things that I could do. I think that somebody said to me one day, thanks for bringing rock and roll back to the industry. I go, when was it here the first time?
That's a good point. Yeah, that's true.
Robert, I mean, we're 30 minutes in and all we've talked about is your bit. What does retirement look like for you? Because it doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, definitely does not.
Well, I'm going to just, what you said at the top of the show, and we'll just repeat what we said before we turned the cameras on. Mary found me a new side hustle in Italy, being a gondola. I Oh, solo mio, and I'm going to be driving the gondola, telling jokes the whole way through. My wife does speak Italian. I'm learning a little bit because I do feel like I'd like to live in Italy. I really do. But I know at the top of the show, you retired from the industry. I have not retired from the industry. I've retired from Paul Mitchell. Now, whether I stay in the industry, whether I mostly when I'm looking at what's going on, when I'm looking at social media, all I'm seeing is what I don't want to be. When I was
Mhm.
a kid, all I seen is who I did want to be. So these people are very helpful to me because they're showing me like, I don't want to do that. That's not where I want to go. Do I want a product line? Yeah. Somebody said to me, wouldn't it be nice to have your name on a bottle of shampoo? I once had my face on a pair of panties. It's more rewarding than my name on a bottle of shampoo. And, I just think that everybody's got different ambitions in the industry. I put 40 years into Paul Mitchell. I loved him from beauty school. I was a believer. Before I was a leader, I was definitely a believer. I was just walking on whatever Paul told us to do. I also had the great fortune to work with Paul Mitchell. I spent a lot of time with Mr. Angus Mitchell, who we lost beginning of the year. That had a huge impact on me because he was my buddy. We both had one thing in common. We loved his father. And he told me just before he passed that I reminded him of his dad. And that couldn't be a better compliment received. And I'm just saying that is a big loss to the industry because he had a beautiful heart. He loved hairdressers. We had a lot in common. But I'm just saying, I'm not quite sure what the next chapter is. I'm taking a bit of time off. My wife's still working hard, diligently traveling the world with Paul Mitchell. So we're not against that. We're still a Paul Mitchell 100% salon. So nothing's really changed except I've got a pause. And for the first time in my life, I can have thoughts that not necessarily are about JP or Paul, that are just about, what do I want to do? I could start, I love to cook. I love to do certain things. I mean, who knows what? I do enjoy coaching, so I may sort of turn into that, but I just feel the internet has changed everything. In 1980 and 90, to see a hair show, you had to be there. To see Paul Mitchell, you had to be there. To see Vidal Sassoon, you had to be in the room. And now the digital format, you can be from your phone seeing such incredible talents from all over the world, people you may never meet, and be inspired by it. So I just think the industry has shifted quite considerably, but I appreciate the technology because as a creator that's building shows and different things, it's so beautiful to be pulling these assets so that when you're telling people about the show you're going to do, it's not in your head. You've got visualized like a storyboard, a mood board. Here's how the hair's going to look. Here's how the fashion's going to look. Here's how the music's going to look. And I just think that's the way to create for the future. So I'm not sure, people say I'm an incredible showman. So obviously that's still in me. I'm still looking at shows and going, oh my God, I could do something with that. I love music. I listen to TikTok every day. And that gives me the sense. And people say at my age, you don't watch TikTok. You should be on Facebook or MySpace. But to me, I just love that I can spot a trend like that one Abracadabra, the Barbara one, or my money don't fold, it jiggle jiggles or wiggle wiggles, whatever that is. You spot these little things, and I think that makes it kind of interesting. So when I would put music together for a show in Europe, every little track I had, Pretty Girls Walk Like This, I knew it was going to hit because the music, and sometimes I let other people hear it and they go, what's that? And I go, know what I know. If I'm in schools and I drop a line of one of these songs, they all relate to me. And my wife's like, what is that? I'm like, you don't know.
Poor man.
And listen, for a man of my age, it's incredible the inspiration I'm getting every day on my phone, but TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, there's no limitation. It's just a beautiful place to be in the industry. So if you're a young individual in the industry, I think you have it better than I had it. Yeah, I had to go and physically be in the room to see them. But these days, I think it's possible to have mentorship around the world of people you may never see, may never meet, but they can influence you incredibly. And I enjoy that point of the industry right now. I think it's the most fascinating time we've ever been in.
100%. So we were talking about retirement. We did mention Angus.
Uh-huh.
How do you feel that retirement maybe is your nourishment like for your well-being, for your mental state of all of Angus's sudden passing?
I know it definitely had an effect on me because I hang out with his beautiful wife,
Mhm.
and I just felt while I'm talking to her, giving her advice, I find I was actually talking to myself.
Mm.
Was my
And
motivation
that
still
happened.
there? Was I so excited because the sort of career that I had built myself into, because I'm the global art director of the company, so my vision was really taking a lot of time in Europe.
Mm.
And that's what him and I were doing. We're going to Zurich, we were going to Italy, we were going to Germany, we were going all over Europe. And our company's not as big there. So a lot of it was to really propel the needle, move the needle. In the United States, we pretty much have ownership here. We're the #1 hair care brand in the world.
Yes.
So a lot of my vision was me and my buddy, our wives, go into these incredible shows where they treat us like rock stars.
Mhm.
Uh, they really do. They're so appreciative, so amazing. So it was definitely a question. I think whenever you see death, and I think this industry's seen a lot of death lately,
Mhm.
you got to question it because it could be you. And are you doing the things that you should be doing because you just don't know? So I think that was a part of it. And then, I'm a 62-year-old man. And I've been doing it. If you were buying me as a car, I've got a lot of mileage. I've been everywhere. I've done every type of show I've ever dreamed of. I came off a show stage once, and Vidal Sassoon pulled me over and said, "You're the greatest showman I've ever seen." I think
Oh,
I could take that one and go, "All right,
yes.
who's that?"
Take it.
And
100%. Yeah.
so I feel like I've accomplished a lot in the industry. And then the next chapter, who knows what it was for me and Angus, it was playing around, doing the things we love. And then it'll come to me with this time off I'm having. Every day people are asking me, I'm just not sure what it is. And, one of my colleagues at Paul Mitchell came driving down on his motorcycle and said, I was at a job for 40 years, just like you were. He worked for Vidal Sassoon. The company changed, something happened, I got laid off, and I right away took another job out of desperation. And I said, "Well, okay, that's interesting." He says, "You should take 6 months off and just chill." And I said, "Well, you're talking to the right guy because I know how to chill. I'm a chill pill. So I'm not so, let me run out and do this. I know as an hairdresser, I can make a living no matter what. And I think I'm excited to revamp our salon. I'm always working on the concepts of it, but I'm happy to chill out and then it'll come to me. It'll come. There'll be a void or something I see, which is a place where I could be useful. I'm not just trying to be another guy doing what everybody else is doing. I think it's important to do something that gives me the same passion that I've held in my body for 40 years for Paul Mitchell. I can't do it half. I can't see me up on stage with another company going, "Oh, these guys are the greatest ever," because I've kind of used up all my credibility. When I walk in Europe, people go, "There's the Paul Mitchell guy." I
Yeah.
hear compliment all the time. I'm never offended because I'm quite honored to be affiliated with that. But that would be really weird if you've seen me on stage at Matrix.
Yeah. Yeah.
That'd be very confusing. So I just think that, we'll see what happens. I'm not quite sure. As I say, I have a lot of experience. I have a lot of things. Obviously, when my retirement was announced, a lot of people want to chat. I'm very excited about talent in the industry. So who knows? It could be building shows with other talents, which is what I do when I work for Paul Mitchell's, kind of helping bring in the talent you normally wouldn't see and giving you a main stage performance of an all-day episode that you cannot forget to the day you die. So I've had a few people from some of the trade shows that have been interested in getting me back onto the stage and being more of an MC, a maestro, doing a little bit of hair if necessary. I just think, and I don't really, I've been selling 2 for 22 for 40 years. I don't necessarily want to be a pitch on moving the deal sheet. I've done that. And most people, when they've ever watched me and they buy our stuff, it's not because I'm selling it. It's just they love it so much. Like whatever he's selling, I'm taking. I used to sell thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars in t-shirts. And they were just little gags. Like one said, "Quit your bitching. You did it in the kitchen." And bestseller. It was really a kind of approach and a defense against drugstore color. So, I just feel that I don't think there's a part of the beauty industry I've left to go, "Oh my God, if I could have just done that one thing." I've sat on Vidal's lap twice. Nobody can even say that. I've been gifted. I got to work with
Yeah.
Paul Mitchell. I've been everywhere. I know every major artist in the world. They're all beautiful friends of mine. I just don't know if there's any more for this. I'm not quite sure. But as I say, I'm retired for Paul Mitchell, but I'm not quite sure what the universe is going to present itself to.
I think that that's great news. Like I'm
Mhm.
so happy that you're still representing the industry because,
Yeah.
from just your business knowledge and your just creativity. I mean, the wash house and the color bar and all of that you brought that to the industry. So I'm so happy to hear that like that's going to continue. That's awesome. You brought up a couple of times like people that you're watching. Who online are you watching that's really firing you up?
Ooh.
You can't say Mary. I just saw you make eye contact with her. Aside
Yes.
from Mary, who else in the industry is firing you up?
The one lady I love her the way she cuts hair, Jane.
Jane Ito Salon. I don't know her true last name.
I know
But
Jane Ito is her name. She cuts these beautiful little shaggy curtain bangs with a razor. Not really. She's not. I wouldn't call her a precision hair cutter, but she does just beautiful transformation. She's one I would definitely would pay money, and that's how I'm sort of looking at. If I was to build a super show, it'd be people that I would pay money to watch.
Mm.
Mm.
I used to say that about one of my platform partners. I would pay money to watch this kid cut hair. And I just know that there's certain people, some that I actually worked with colleagues at Paul Mitchell that are incredible.
Sure.
The one I was kind of talking about from Sassoon, Stephen Moody, he's
Oh,
just the
Stephen
greatest
Moody.
teacher I've ever seen. And I'm pretty good at it. He's just incredible and he's got passion. So, looking at different people that you see out there, and, some can be motivational, some may be quiet because what I kind of represent in my show is I'm a mouthpiece. So you can be a visible artist, just get your head down and do magical work, which is a beautiful thing. And sometimes if you're a platform artist on a big stage, people could think you're a little dull and boring because you're not running the words, telling the jokes. I used to work with a guy. I said, if I cut hair like him, I wouldn't tell jokes either. It's more a reference to how I do it. I got to entertain because that's what the job is. But to me, if you can create visible artistry and you've got a working line that's creating a bit of fun and magic, I think there's a lot of possibilities there. So almost like if you watch the Olympics, like the beautiful basketball thing, when you've got all these incredible players, look what can be done. And I just think that could be something I could do because a lot of people, which surprises me sometimes, I've had an influence on a lot of folks out there. And sometimes when yeah, I think you said fangirling.
Totally. It's a
Uh,
great day.
I'll see somebody I know, like there's one, I think he's from the UK, Josh LaMonaco. He's a male hairdresser, but he does women's shapes too. But I've never seen anybody take such detail and such incredible craftsmanship and put it to work on a man's head or gentleman's head. And I remember I was at a thing for Hairbrained and I see him there and I go, oh, let me go and just say hi. I go, hey, and I went to say who I was. He goes, you're Robert Cromeans. Can I get a picture? I'm like, okay. So there's people that I don't even really know. Sometimes if we're in a shows, Mary's like telling me who they all are with their hashtags. I don't necessarily know them, but there's without a doubt people that know me. I remember meeting the legendary Guy Tang. So I
Oh,
said, no, Guy Tang. I said, I don't know Guy Tang, but when I met him at a show, he just collapsed in my arms and hugged and said, the first hair show I ever seen was with you and Stephanie Kachowski. We have influenced people
yeah.
on the ground, on the world. And most people, when I really get around them, say, oh my God, the first time I was ever at a show, it was you I watched. So I'm just saying we've had an influence. I used to love doing the trade shows. It was such a great place to be. And it kind of teaches you how to be a busker, how to pull a crowd from nothing. People say, well, it's because you're famous. No, long before I was famous, I was able to get a crowd's interest and hold them there all day. And that's something that is really critical. And some people cut hair and nobody's watching. Well, you're boring. I'm sorry. You've got to bring more to it. Bring more to it. It's not a real. People don't want to be bored, and especially now, it's moving faster and faster. The thing you got to love about TikTok is the short format, the short edit, because in 9 seconds they tell you where they're from and all this stuff. Whereas people tend to talk too much, too many words, not enough meaning. So it's really one of those things that if you really get into show business, it's about how do you edit a show and make it just pack, 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 pack. And that's the magic. So when I did big shows, that's what I was able to do. I'm also really good at threading up a team. So even if somebody said to me, I've never been on stage before, I said, you don't have to worry. If I'm up there, it's like a safety net. Nothing can go wrong. Your model faints, the color tray falls over, even the lights going out, I can overcome. There's nothing I can't overcome. I actually used to pray for a little bit of some disaster through a show because that's I'm witty and smart and clever. And you get off the script. Because I think the danger that people are running into right now is they're too scripted, too organized. I can see it coming. It's like telling a joke. I can hear the punchline long before you delivered it. And I think that's a big thing that people need to learn. It's got to feel organic. It's got to be real.
Is that also part the brand fault? Because the brand, they dictate so much of what you can say when you're on the stage, when you're representing them.
Oh, yeah, because in
It's
1990,
not fault, but it's like how we're being trained.
if I had said something that wasn't true of the brand in 1990, nobody would ever have noticed. But nowadays, if you filmed it, put it on the Instagram, and then suddenly, yeah. So the fact checking of it, yeah, it's a whole part. And I give my wife incredible credit because she knows everything about Paul Mitchell. And by default, I did too. So even though I would be training people, making sure they knew the ingredients, kakadu, P peptides, and all this stuff, I know it too. So if I know it, you got to know it. So I think it's important, but I just think that many companies, once they get kind of big at it, there's a script, there's a thing, and then I just feel like I could see it coming. It's very slow. It just doesn't feel that. It should feel just like the first time. It should feel like a first kiss. It should feel like you've never said that before. And I think that's a big part that people could learn. Train platform artists, because I think there's a lot I watch when I see them going, oh no, I wouldn't have done that. Just I watch people do stuff, say stuff, when they're cutting hair, I'm cutting hair like this because I don't want that. Why are you telling people what you don't want? Mine can only work on one piece. Tell them what you do.
What's been your biggest onstage disaster?
Oh, that's such a good question, Corey.
Well, what was that one?
Would it be someone fainting?
They were early in my career. There's a product we made that Paul made. It's called sculpting lotion, and it's a liquid, very liquidy. In fact, when you would put it on hair, you would sort of pepper it in. So this is probably my first show ever. And I go to grab this little product and I start peppering it in. I think I'm doing great. I've got maybe 400 people in the audience. And I was kind of giving it a little finger wave. And I start finger waving. And as I started waving it, I started to see a lather. So I had actually not lifted sculpting, I'd lifted shampoo. And right as the time I'm sort of going, okay, I see it. I look out to the audience and I could tell they've seen it. So I claimed it. This is the big learning. And I was working with a partner. I was the junior kid in this team. And I said, I'm so sorry. I'll never do that again. She goes, it was hilarious. Do it the next show. And that same lady I worked with, her name was Jean Bra. She did long hair, beautiful stuff. For 10 years, I passed pins. One model in some beautiful show in Kansas City, this model fainted. And when people faint on stage, everybody just loses their mind. She needs some orange juice. Well, eventually somebody gave her orange juice. They started to carry her off stage. And it's my job to pick it back up. And I said, I hate when that happens in the salon. I feel so bad going through their wallet. And the whole room laughed. And then suddenly, whoa. So, things go wrong. But to me, it's how you handle it. And then being honest. If it's wrong, just call it. Oops, didn't mean that. That didn't go right. As opposed to trying to hide it and scurry it away. I just think sometimes just calling it out before they do is kind of a good secret.
You know what? That was even behind the chair. That was one of my biggest learns. And it took me until I was in my 30s, very much in my 30s, before I felt comfortable enough to be like, I fucked up. Like I messed this up. And but what I noticed though is that your clients don't necessarily get mad when you make a mistake, and you're a genius when you know how to fix it. Literally just 2 years ago was during the Christmas bash, and it's a rule that I live by. Like, take the 1/8 of a second that it takes to actually read the formula, to read the color on the tube, as opposed to what box it came out of, right? And sure enough, man, like my ash level 7 ended up being a 5 red violet, and of course it's the Christmas rush, but we're able to recover it, and luckily she's still my client, and I had to cancel my whole day and stuff, but it's much better just to own, like, I messed up. Robert, I need a favor, and I don't think Christine's ever heard this story. So I need to tell her the story.
Okay.
And you brought up like going through someone's wallet. Can you tell Christine the time that you were delivering pizzas and you lost your wallet and you also lost some other stuff?
Yeah, yes.
I'm
Well,
so excited to hear the story.
well, I was probably about 24 years old. I just moved from Scotland. And the first thing I did when I pretty much got here is I went to beauty school. And it was in beauty school, they carried Paul Mitchell products. So that's where I fell in love.
Mhm.
Watched a video, Paul Mitchell, he's Scottish, I'm Scottish. He thought he was funny. I think I'm funny. And when I watched him do hair, he was like a wizard. He did just impossible things, not conventional whatsoever. So to go through a beauty school, just like many people did, I had another job. I delivered pizza. And I went to school in Memphis, Tennessee. And one evening we got an order for a large pepperoni pizza, which I popped in my car and off I went. And when I got there, the guy, which happens sometimes, they would wait outside. So just to kind of cut away finding the house or whatever, I'd just be outside. So I see the guy waiting. So as I go, oh, there he is. I jump out with a pie. He goes into his pocket. I think he's going to bring out his wallet. He brought out a gun.
Oh, Lord.
And he pointed it at me, and I could hear it wobble and woggle a little bit, but I'd never really seen a gun. So I gave him the benefit. He said, give me the pizza, which I handed over. He said, give me whatever money you have, which again, it was Domino's. So I handed over the money. But the third thing he said, take your pants off. And I got a little
What?
spot and said, hell no. And he hit me on top of the head with a gun, and I could feel the weight of a Magnum 357. So as I lay on the ground with no pants on, I thought to myself, start wearing underwear. Mom was right.
Stop it right now.
But the second thing, which is more important, was to really make beauty school pay off, to really apply myself,
Yeah.
been through the tribulations, the trials. But you can imagine when I tell the story, as a young man coming from Scotland, I'm laying there, you take my pants off. I'm thinking, what's this guy going to do to me? It was really a deterrent to stop me chasing after him. But as it turned out, it was a really fun story, and I've told it like 100 times, and it never gets old. I have no problem telling the same jokes over and over again, but you got to commit to them. You got to commit
Yeah.
every single time. And, it's a beautiful experience. And it did put me on my way because I did apply myself. I told people in school that I went to that I would get more out of beauty school in this particular school than anybody else ever did. And I used to meet my old learning leaders or teachers years later, and they say, oh my God, we knew when you were in school
Oh.
you were going to do it. So it's just one of those things that, it seems like a great story when you look at it now. But at the time, I just applied myself in the right ways, believed in something. I think it's something easier to believe in something than it is to believe in yourself. And eventually that belief in yourself comes through. So,
Mhm.
a beautiful experience for me. And even kids I went to beauty school with, I'd meet them later at shows and they go, I would see you and I knew you were going to be so. I said, well, what would make you think that? He said,
Yeah.
you would use Paul Mitchell products on your little old ladies in school.
Oh.
You bought it out your own pocket. I said, what did that make you think? He said, I wished I had. People got to commit to something.
Yeah.
Pokey pokey, you got to put yourself in.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you'll be surprised what comes out of it. And I think that's where a lot of people, they try something once and then stop it. Like, you got to believe. So when you bring up religion, people believe in religion. You got to believe in something. And I just think for me, I was very convincing. And if you're convinced, you'll be convincing.
Yeah.
So if you get pitch something and you don't really believe it, I can see that you are faking yourself here. You've got to be convinced to be convincing. And when that happens, then you're a natural organic speaker. You're just telling people what you did yesterday in the salon, and that's your story of sale. And
Yeah.
that's really what I like. I like people that are living it and walking it over
Mm.
people who have just read the book or the poster or the technical savvy, it's about your own testimony. And I think that's a critical thing from even clients. People don't want to hear how good I am. They want to hear a client tell you how good I am. So
Yeah.
it's testimony. And that's what the whole world needs now, more and more testimony. And I think for artists and teachers and coaches, I think it's drawing from your own experience. And if you've had that experience, it's very easy to be convincing.
So I know time is passing by, but what is something that, you wish that we would have asked you that we didn't? And how would you have answered it?
Mm.
What kind of husband are you?
What's that?
What kind of husband are you?
Yeah. What kind of husband am I?
Robert, what kind of husband are you?
I'm a great kisser. Shake your head, yes. No. I, I am a very good husband, only because I was very clear on what I wanted. And I knew I was going to a show somewhere and I was a little lost and people were taking care of me. And it was a beautiful part of my life. But Mary put her arm in my arm and I just knew that was it. It was over. And we've been together now coming up on 18 years and we've been married for 5, but we get along really, really well, even though we work together. If we're doing shows, I'm at the front of the house building the show. She's backstage doing a lot of the magical stuff that it takes to produce 30 models. But we also are we don't say stupid shit to each other.
Oh, that's good.
We don't ever say something that you can't retract. A lot of people don't know this. It's with one of my friends. I'm going to keep his name out of it just to protect him. But he told his wife to shut up.
Oh.
And my wife said, I will punch you in the throat. He said, I had no idea because he was a little older. And I'm just saying, these days with pronouns and different things, I don't care what age you are, you got to represent the people. And if you're going to represent the people, you got to be aware of the different terms and the things that are going on. But for Mary and I'm sure sometimes she must just go, oh my God, this guy's an idiot. But she's never said it to my face. And I think that's the thing that keeps our relationship beautiful. We don't say things right later, even if there's alcohol involved. I mean, it's just like an email or something you'd write on a post. Once you put it there, you can't retract it. So I find that when Mary and I started being together and the love that we show, and not just when we're, with friends at shows, we had a lot of friends like Angus Mitchell that wanted the same sort of love that we had. And a lot of my friends rearranged their lives to fall in love the same way we had and live the same sort of life, especially when people are mentors to an industry. They deserve happiness. So when I see a mentor to the industry being miserable in a marriage, I'm like, nah, buddy, you gotta change this because you give too much to too many people. And when you do that, I just want the best for you. And I think that's what happened with me and Mary. And I think that's what we identified with when we had our wedding. The only people that were there were people that were in love with their partners, their spouses, and all the different things. And people still talk about the wedding, how great it was. It's just that was the nucleus that we built it upon. And life
Robert, I'm glad you brought that up because I think it's really important as an industry, certainly not to genderfy it, but to genderfy it. I think it's really important that us as men represent what a happy married life can look like, because certainly coming up in the industry in the 90s, when I did, there wasn't a lot of representation about that. As a matter of fact, it was an incredibly misogynistic and toxic masculinity kind of stuff. Now, there was sex, drugs, and rock and roll that went with all that as well. But I'm hopeful that moving forward as an industry that we can have more positive stuff. I am a much, much better husband now, but I had to learn how to be a good husband. Right. There was a lot of years until I was in my mid 30s where I wasn't a very good husband, and not with cheating and stuff like that. That's never been my thing, but I certainly said and did things that I do regret saying and doing. But now, pretty much since my mid 30s, and I decided that I was going to end that part of my life. We've had an incredibly happy and good marriage. But I'm just so glad to see that somebody with the platform that you have is representing that, and not even like in representing it in a sense of like standing in front of it, like yeah, this is who I am. And no matter who I was, this is who I am. And this is, and I appreciate you. And as you know, I adore Mary. I don't know if you guys heard, but I talked her up before the thing. Like she really humbled me when we first met. And I'm very appreciative that the three of us met and got to spend that time together in the salon. Whether you remember or not, Robert, we spent some time.
I remember. It was after a long show, so it was a wee hour stuff.
So we did Yaya's hair at the salon.
Yeah, we had. Well, no, the last time we talked, but when you did with Mary, we were.
That was at DTC in DC.
Yeah, I did Yaya's hair. Stole that show, by the way.
Of course you did.
This beautiful girl, her name was Yaya. Of course it was. Butt length hair. Mary made it pink, and I cut it off in about 3 minutes, and the crowd went. Every artist I was working with was like, what just happened? I said, you've just been an artist. They There was 5 artists up there. They didn't color the hair. Some of them were dry cutting, which there is a place for dry cutting, but it's not what I see is what I see.
Mm.
Transformation is the game. Change, risk taking. And I'm afraid these are just the way it works. If you don't take a risk, you don't get a reward. So
Mhm.
we had a good time there. But I would just say that I was part of that 80s, 90s thing. And it was a male driven industry. You weren't seeing a lot of female talent. And that's not true of today's market. You're seeing a little bit more mixture. And I think there's as many female heroes as there are male heroes. But there was a time it was just, if you weren't a guy, you weren't having success on a platform, to be quite honest. To mention females, we're going to be maybe on one hand of the females that made a difference. That is not the way it works these days.
Mm.
And I just think that's a very positive shift. I think that I think it's unique because men are a minority in this industry in America. But when I do shows in Italy, it's all male. When I'm in Israel,
Oh, wow.
oh yeah, it's a whole different energy when you're doing a show. Like the shirtless boy doesn't do so well in Italy. So it's just a very interesting thing. I think again, part of my philosophy as a showman is begin with the audience in mind. So if I'm in a situation where I happen to know the audience is male, I'm going to play a slightly different game. And I just think that, when you look at a show, when I go into a showroom, I sit in the back of the room and I just visualize the whole thing. A lot of people, I see them go up on these big stages. I call it death by stage because you don't have any idea. In fact, most of the shows I do, if I'm on a big stage, I can't wait to get off of it and get in the crowd
Mm.
because it really creates this invisible line between you and them. All the stage is doing is creating distance, and I break that barrier. Sometimes people build stages with no stairs. I still jump off of it because I know if there's 6,000 people there, if I don't go to the back row, it's not going to be the same thing. People want to feel something. So
Mm.
I love getting off the stage. I do business seminars. I sometimes don't even take the stage. It's not the place to be. Why do I want to create distance? I want to walk around. So if you're dumb enough to sleep in my audience, you'll know about it. You with a balloon. It's just one of those things. So even when you've got people that are resisting you and not wanting to play, as soon as you take away that invisible line, you're in the crowd, and suddenly there's a whole different thing. And you're touching people, you're engaging in people, taking questions. No longer is that distance, that sort of artificial big platform, little you. It's taking away that invisible line if you can. Even at trade shows, I used to do this trick where people would gather around and they would leave this kind of about 12 feet empty because they didn't want to get too close. And I would lie to them and say, the fire marshal came by, he said, you got to come in. I'd bring them in, they get right up to, and then I'd build another crowd on top, and then you couldn't get out even if you wanted to. So everything I do is very technically driven through years of experience of doing it. It's not just being a natural. I think I'm a natural person at certain things, but
Mm.
everything I have is experience. When I was told by Vidal as the greatest showman in the world, because I'm on stage more than most people. I'm in audiences more than most people. I speak business more than most people. And that's really what comes out of me, and knowing all these little things that I kind of learn when I walk into a room, what I see, what I think about, where the audience are, what are the production team like? The last thing people go into these big shows, they're building this incredible production like it's a grand event, and the guys are working with 12 other teams. They don't have the capacity. So just keeping it simple sometimes when it's necessary, and having the kind of common sense to do those things. But I'm definitely going to miss the shows. I miss the trade shows. I've been missing those already because I had such fun at trade shows. I think if you can do 4 2-hour shows a day, that's where you're going to build your word power. And there was nothing I wouldn't say on one of those stages to keep a crowd or to keep going. But all of these experiences have just been the joy of my life. And as I say, chapter 1 is closed. We'll see what chapter 2 is. But
Well,
I'm
I'll
quite
speak for the industry, and those trade shows are going to miss you too. I
Yeah.
know that I'll miss
Yeah, they are.
you inside the trade show. Before we wrap up, Christine, do you have a parting shot, or do you have anything else you want to add?
I just want to add that it has been such a honor and a privilege to just chat with both of you guys here, and to just have and to hear Robert confirm, commit, make a decision, commit to it, And I'm just sitting here thinking of the BeautyPro podcast and the coaching and the salon ownership and all of these things. And it's like, figure out what, again, this is the coaching part, right? Figure out who you are, what you want, and why. And then just throw yourself at it. And so hearing Robert, like, I'm like, thank you, Jesus, right? And I'm just taking it in, and I'm like, wow, this is great. So I am very privileged. Thank you for letting me co-host with you today, Corey, and thank you, Robert and Mary, for coming on.
Mary's been filming the whole episode.
Yes, girl.
Okay,
Yes.
Go Mary. That's awesome. So I'll wrap this up for Christine. Thank you for hanging out with me today. Robert Cromeans, as always, thank you for giving us your time, and where I thought this was going to be like a retirement legacy thing, it's just like, no, sir. Like I'm only beginning. We're getting ready for Act 2 here. I can't wait to see what Act 2 is. Mary, I love you. Thank you very much for arranging this. I can't wait to see you guys on the road. I hope that Mary, even if you're traveling, I hope that Robert is riding your coattails into the shows, just selfishly, so I can see you guys at all the big shows. But once again, thank you guys very much. Thanks for hanging out with us, and thank you for joining us on your day off.
Beautiful. Thank you.
If you loved this episode, subscribe to the BeautyPro podcast on Spotify and Apple Podcasts so you never miss an episode. Don't forget to leave your reviews, stars, feedback so I can continue bring the content you deserve and want most. Your feedback fuels this podcast. The more you give, the more you get back. You can follow me at The BeautyPro Coach on Instagram and Facebook. Want to contact me directly? Email me at befree@goldentruthcoaching.com.